I am David Maharaja, and I would like to welcome you all to my YouTube channel called Brahma Gaje, a channel that is dedicated to philosophical discourse. Please do not forget to click on that like button and also that subscribe button. In this episode, I will be providing a summary of day 8 of Shiv Maha Puran Katha, held here locally in Maryland, in Finksburg, Maryland, by the High Priest of the temple, Acharya Shri Padmanabh Joshi. Let's get started, shall we? So on this day, day 8, Panditji started with the idea that Shiv is the source of all knowledge. He is the source of all Ved. Conceptually, if you think about it, knowledge is something that exists, has existed. When we talk about any scientific discovery or what have you, we are always referring to that as a discovery. A discovery implies that it already existed, we just discovered it. So all knowledge that there is to be, the knowledge of creation, the knowledge of destruction, the knowledge of maintenance, all that is Shiv. It has existed always. So the source of that is Shiv. When we discover Shiv, we discover all the knowledge. The source of knowledge is Him, and when we discover the source, we have it. But we are also part of that creation and that cycle. So it is just mere discovery from our side that we must conduct to find Shiv. The faith, the hope that we cultivate towards that discovery is what can lead us to finding Lord Shiv. So knowledge, faith, then Panditji talked about that there is knowledge, then there is bhakti, devotion through faith. They complement each other. If you have utmost devotion through your faith in Shiv, then you will work towards achieving the knowledge that the Shiv provides. A poetry by a great poet, Ganesh Bihari Tarj, 20th century, an Urdu poet. His poetry comes into the mind that Gnan mana hai bada. Gnan mana hai bada. Bhakti bhi lekin kam nahi. ज्ञान माना है बड़ा, भक्ति भी लेकिन कम नहीं. आग अपनी जगह, दीवानगी अपनी जगह. आग अपनी जगह, दीवानगी अपनी जगह. The poet here says that Gnan, the knowledge, yes, the path of knowledge is amazing. We recognize that, we acknowledge that. But path of devotion is also not lesser. The fire is in its place or has its place. But divangi, the madness to burn oneself into that fire. The fire here symbolizing the knowledge, and us through devotion, through faith, through that cultivation, acquiring it and being consumed into it, that action itself has its own place. The poet here is referencing the fly who gets attracted by fire, the Shama Parvana, and then surrenders, sacrifices himself into that fire. The fire here, knowledge, Shiv, us being submerged, completely being consumed by that. After all, we came from that. So it's the source in which we find ourselves ultimately settled, because through our faith we discover Shiv. Then Panditji talked about the story of Bāṇa Asura, the great devotee of Lord Shiv, who gained ultimate power and thousands of hands, meaning symbolizing unbeatable power, wealth, knowledge, etc. from Shiv. But then he developed ego. So one day he told Shiv, Bhagwan Shiv, that what good is this wealth? I'm undefeated. I want to have, somebody that is equal to me and be defeated by that. My death shall occur by somebody that is equal to me. And Lord Shiv says, so be it. You will find somebody that will come and destroy your ego and this power and your hands that I have given to you, the strength that I have given to you. After all, your ego must be answered. And that is what Lord Shiv told him, that, yep, you want to find your match? If that is what you wish, you will find your match. And that match, that person will defeat you. Be it known. Bāṇa Asura, the great demon, had a beautiful daughter, Usha. And Usha, just through description of this handsome man, Aniruddha, who happens to be the grandson of Shri Krishna, who looked like Shri Krishna, who was equal in strength to Shri Krishna, she fell for him. And Usha is in completely love with Aniruddha. She has never met him. She just fell in love just through a description of Lord Aniruddha. So Chitralekha is a friend of Usha, and she is a mystic. She has magical powers. So she says, my friend, don't be disheartened. I will abduct Aniruddha and bring him to you. So Chitralekha goes to the place where Aniruddha is staying and abducts him. Brings Aniruddha to Chitralekha, and they fall in love and spend night with each other in an intimate relationship. Bāṇa Asura finds this out and says, this is unacceptable. Aniruddha, you have to fight with me. Aniruddha, as I just said, is equal in strength to Lord Krishna. So gives a very good fight to Bāṇa Asura. But Bāṇa Asura eventually uses Nagpash, and the young boy, Aniruddha, is captured. Hearing this, Lord Krishna says, I must do something. I have to rescue my grandson. So the entire Yadav army with Krishna attacks Bāṇa Asura. Bāṇa Asura is mighty, he has a great army, and they had tremendous warfare which went on for thousands of years. They fought viciously. Finally, as Shiv had told Bāṇa Asura, that eventually you will find your match. And Lord Krishna the avatar of Sri Hari Vishnu is that match and cuts all the hands of Bāṇa Asura and defeats him ultimately. When Krishna is about to kill Bāṇa Asura, Shiv appears and says, "This is it. You have punished Bāṇa Asura, you have destroyed his ego, and this was destined. So, Shri Krishna, leave him. Now he's under my protection." And Bāṇa Asura apologizes to Lord Shiv and Krishna for harboring the ego of his strength. Again, this story happened to be because it was the cause for the outcome that Shiv had predicted for Bāṇa Asura, that eventually he will find the match. And then again, this entire incident had to occur so that it led to it. And finally, Bāṇa Asura surrenders to Shiv, and Shiv gives him the Abhay Pad and makes him one of his Gaṇa, because Bāṇa Asura, after all, was a great devotee of Krishna, or Lord Shiv. And Krishna, at this point also, because he has apologized to Krishna and has become very humble to Lord Krishna. And with that devotion to Sri Krishna, it says, "I'm going to have my daughter, Usha, marry your grandson, Aniruddha." And Usha and Aniruddha perform a marriage, and thus the story concludes. So this reference is what Panditji also talked about. Who would have known that this story was really a setup to teach ultimately the lesson to his greatest devotee, Bāṇa Asura, and Shiv had arranged for it. Again, a translation in Gujarati, poetry written in Gujarati of Shiv Mahimna Stotra by Yogeshwarji near Bharuch comes into mind that Shake Taro Jani Param Mahima Vahan Nahi Kare Che Vedo E Stuti Pan Bhaye Neti Neti Swarthi. Who would be able to comprehend your acts and your plans? Even Ved itself is not able to describe your acts or you. Therefore, they say this is not it, because they can never reach to the ultimate conclusion that you perform, that your acts can perform Lord Shiv. He is, again, the source of knowledge. Therefore, anything that comes out of it cannot overcome the source, mathematically speaking, as I had also explained in my previous episodes. So sometimes when we feel desperate that things are happening in our lives, and why is it happening, and why did it happen this way, it could have happened that way, and then eventually, if we surrender, like Bāṇa Asura did, then we come to realize that after all, this was all just a play to make you realize one way or the other. And thus you accept what happened. Bāṇa Asura accepted his defeat. He accepted the surrender to Shri Krishna and formulated his devotion to Lord Krishna by giving his daughter Usha to Aniruddha, and ultimately joined the ranks of Gaṇa with Shiv, and Shiv gave him the Abhay Pad. Then Panditji talked about various avatars of Shiv. There are limitless avatars of Shiv, such as Tatpurush, who gave Rudra Gayatri to Lord Brahma himself, Ishan Rudra, Bhim, etc. There are so many different Ansh avatar of Lord Shiv. Then Panditji talked about Ardha-Nareśvara, the half Shiv and half Parvati, half Devi. Such a beautiful idea that in consort they stay. Shiv is never separate from Shakti. If you look at Shivling, the base in which Shivling is rested is Shakti. If there is no Shakti, there is no Ling. We see Shivling as one entity, rightfully so. We should never see Shivling as two separate, because it is not. But Yoni, in which the Ling is stabilized, the base in which the Shivling is stabilized, is Mataji, is Parvati, is Shakti. And Bhagavan Shiv is the Linga Swarup. But that is that symbolic formulation. The Ardha-Nareśvara Roop is actually the full form, where half male and half female. It is the divine form of Shiva and Śakti, the Ardha-Nareśvara. And the Ardha-Nareśvara Stotra by Adi Shankar comes into mind, just a one line that Champeya Gaurardha Sharirakai Karapura Gaurardha Sharirakai Dhammilakaye Jatadharaya Namah Shivaya Cha Namah Shivaya. My salutation to both Parvati and Shiv, to her whose body shines similar to molten gold. Such a beautiful, shiny image that she has, like the molten gold itself. And to him, Lord Shiv, whose body shines like burning camphor, kapoor, radiant, aromatic. To her, who has well made up hair, such a beautiful hairstyle, very well set. But to him, Lord Shiv, who has a matted lock, jata, his jatajut. Somebody who's so delicate, so pious, so pretty. And on the other hand, somebody who is strong, babut is all over his body. Snakes are all over his body. He has jatajut, the Gangaji is coming from the hair, and trinetra, three eyes, beautiful, burning like camphor, karpura gaurardha, is Lord Shiv. Combination. Really, in essence, you may think that my wife is so different from me. I am so different. We have nothing in matching. Well, that is the match. In disparity, there is parity. In conflict, there is union. That is what Lord Shiv's entire existence as Ardha-Nareśvara teaches us, that your consort is meant to be. If you are different, that is great. If you are similar, that is great. There are similarities and differences, and you should cherish both when you are living as a grihasti, as a married person. Then Panditji talked about tap and the idea of tap. And he provided the etymology of tap. Pa in tap means utter detachment. Gaining the Brahma Jnana with utter detachment. Devotion, detachment, attachment, all that is encompassed in the word tap. Then Panditji talked about the story of Nandi, how once a great devotee of Lord Shiv, Shailad, did tremendous tap. We just talked about it. He detached himself from the samsara, attached himself to the Lord Shiv, and he did ghora tap, very treacherous tap, to a point where his entire body was consumed by insects. only the Atma Tattva was still stable, but his body had become the skeleton and the skin and everything had already gone away. But he was still alive through the Atma Tattva that was within. That is the level of tap. He had detached himself to all the materialistic existence, carnal desires, all of it, and attached himself to the Brahma Jnana, the Lord Shiva's discovery within through tap. And Shiv becomes really happy and says to Shailad, "What do you want?" And Shailad says, "I want a son just like you. There's nobody like me, but so be it." And thus Nandishwar is born, who is equal in strength to Shiv and a great devotee of Shiv. Nandi is born without mother. He was just given as an energy to Shailad. And when Nandi grows up, he tells to his father, "I must sacrifice my entire life, surrender my life to Shiv," and becomes the bull that we see with Shiv. Nandi is a great sage also. His pure knowledge, his pure devotion, his pure strength. He's the protector. So if you have Nandi in your home as a symbol near your Shivling, you are protected. That symbolizes the protection as well, because he's constantly looking, he's constantly attached to Shiv. He doesn't look anywhere else but at Shiv. Therefore, if you have seen the temples in which Nandi is looking at Lord Shiv, that is the right form of Nandi. And Nandi also marries Suesha, who is Muradev's daughter. But Nandi is always attached to Shiv and then gives up everything for just this devotion, this attachment to Shiv and nothing else. Then Panditji talked about other avatars of Shiv, such as the Bhairav avatars, who did so many different leelas. Then Panditji talked about the story of Prahlad and how he was revived by Lord Nrsimha, the half lion and half human. And at the conclusion of that, where Nrsimha Bhagwan saves Prahlad from his vicious demon father Hiranyakashipu and kills him, Bhagwan Nrsimha is so angry that he was about to destroy everything. And there, Virbhadra fights with Nrsimha Bhagwan upon the instruction of Shiv, calms him down, and then detaches the lion skin from him and gives it to Shiv. And the lion, the Sihi Charma, the leather, the lion leather that Shiv is wearing is that of Bhagwan Nrsimha, because Bhagwan Nrsimha surrendered his strength, his ego to Shiv. After all, Shiv is the giver, the source of Bhagwan Nrsimha's strength. Vishnu Bhagwan's avatar is a maintainer avatar. In this avatar, he became the destroyer of Hiranyakashipu. That strength, that power is, after all, Lord Shiv's power. So he surrenders as a tribute to Shiv, as a thank you to Shiv. And Virbhadra takes that and provides it to Lord Shiv. Then Panditji talked about how Shiv and Shivani, Mataji both, had different many avatars, also including 10 Maha avatars. And thus Mahavidya is what also Lord Shiv provided. After all, as I mentioned, and we started with that Shiv is the source of all knowledge. So all Dash Mahavidya, the 10 main knowledge schools of thoughts, are ultimately Lord Shiva's gift to the universe. Then Panditji talked about how real knowledge is intrinsic. It comes from within and it frees you. In a modern day, an example that comes in my mind is that of Dr. Ramanujan. He was a great mathematician, died very young due to illness, but discovered amazing mathematical formulas, and we still use Ramanujan constant in mathematics. But he always used to say that my math comes from within. I don't know how I'm solving this math because Lord Vishnu is the one that's teaching me that. His utter devotion to Vishnu led to it, he says. Again, as Panditji referenced, the true knowledge comes from within. It is a discovery. Knowledge already exists. You just have to work towards it so that you discover it. So therefore, why take pride into something that you have discovered? It already existed. All you did is just discovery. You didn't invent knowledge. You didn't create knowledge. Knowledge always is there. Then Panditji talked about how Kashyap Muni did great tap to teach lessons to his other sets of sons, the Danavas. And Bhagwan Shiv gave him the great power so that Devas could ultimately defeat Danavas. Because at that time, Danavas had taken over Devas. And this is a constant conflict going on. Good and evil conflict is what samsara is all about. Good and evil are two sides. They will constantly be in their clash. Sometimes this side wins, sometimes the other side wins. That is the samsara. This existence, this living, if you think about it, is that. Sometimes there is joy, sometimes there is happiness, sometimes there is pain and suffering. And our life is in between that. Then Panditji talked about how Lord Hanumān was born under Gautam's daughter Anjana. Anjaneya is who Hanumān is, another avatar or Ansh of Lord Shiv who helped Ram in his quest to regain Mata Sita and defeat undefeated demon Ravan. Panditji talked about how Shiva's energy went to Anjana, and Anjana bore a son who Vāyu, the god of air, carried to Anjana in her womb. Therefore, Anjaneya is also the Vāyu-putra because the carrier is also Vāyu, but the source of that energy is Lord Shiv. So, Hanumān is also Shiv's avatar or Ansh. And Vāyu went through Anjana's ear, and that's how it went into the womb. Then Panditji talked about many other avatars, such as the Piplad avatar and so many more. The story of Piplad. Then Panditji referenced or alluded to the story of Nal and Damayanti and how Damayanti's devotion helped her regain her husband who had separated from her, left her, and the tremendous hardship the couple faced because Nal had lost his kingdom into a gamble or gambling duel deliberately set up, and they faced great suffering, but through the devotion of Lord Shiv, Damayanti regained Nal. This poetry is well known in Mahabharata. Here, Panditji simply touched the topic. But if you ever get a chance to explore this beautiful story written in Sanskrit in Mahabharata, it's been translated in many, many languages. It is a beautiful love story, a great story, Nal and Damayanti story. And the devotion here in Shiv Puran The reference is brief, but the brief reference is made towards Damayanti's attachment or devotion to Lord Shiv, which helped her gain back her lost husband, Nal, who she loved very much. Then Panditji briefly talked about how Shiv goes to Krishna's house. Lord Krishna treats Shiv as his guru. Source of his power, wealth, knowledge, etc. is Shiv, and Bhagwan Krishna acknowledges that. Then Panditji talked about Avadhut avatar and the entire Avadhut parampara that started with it. Bhagwan Dattatreya is Avadhut as well. The entire school of chain is a school of thought that started with that. Lord Shiv initiated the entire school of thought. The story, the idea, the concept, again, through detachment, you can attach yourself to the Shiv. The ultimate surrender, the ultimate realization that after all, everything that you are with, that you have, all the possessions, everything is just meaningless. In the end, it all becomes ashes. And Avadhut Parampara recognizes that, respects that. That is all I have. Om Namah Shivaya.